You won't believe what's happening right now with Odafe Oweh and the Ravens. After an amazing season, he's about to create a huge problem with the team, and it could change everything. Will Baltimore manage to keep this star player, or will they have to let him go because of the salary cap? Stay with me until the end, and I'll tell you all the details of this crisis that's got the team and fans on edge. You need to know what might happen in the coming months. Odafe Oweh joined the Ravens in 2021 as a high-potential first-round pick out of Penn State. But for 3 seasons, he oscillated between promising moments and long stretches of quiet production. Everything changed in 2024 when the pass rusher finally delivered what was expected from a first-round pick. 10 sacks over the season, becoming one of the key players in a defense that kept Baltimore among the NFL's most competitive teams. Oweh's breakout didn't just help on the field. It also raised his market value significantly. This sudden jump in performance turned Oweh's contract status from a mere formality into a strategic question for the Ravens' future. With a history of developing talent internally, Baltimore saw another gem shine, but also faced a common dilemma for successful teams in this model. They can't pay everyone top dollar. The 2024 season transformed Oweh from a promising defender into an expensive asset. And this shift happened faster than the team likely anticipated. The Ravens exercised a 5th-year option on Oweh's rookie contract, securing him on the roster through 2025. However, the cost rose sharply, approximately $13.25 million against the salary cap this year alone. This financial leap presents a clear challenge, especially given the team's other contract priorities and tight salary structure. The question now isn't if Oweh deserves a new deal, but if Baltimore can afford to keep him, particularly if he repeats his 2024 performance. With his impressive play, Oweh has attracted attention from multiple franchises, complicating Baltimore's situation. The dilemma is clear. Keep the player and commit resources that might be needed elsewhere, or let him walk and risk losing one of the defense's best talents. This impasse worsens when considering what Oweh might command in 2026, and the signs that the Ravens are already cautious about handling that future cost. The Ravens' decision to pick up Oweh's 5th-year option made sense from a football standpoint. After a 10-sack season, there was no way to let go of a rising star. However, this move carries a real and immediate cost. Oweh's salary will jump to $13.25 million in 2025, a figure that directly impacts the team's salary cap space, especially on a roster already loaded with high salaries in other defensive spots and Lamar Jackson's contract. This amount temporarily makes Oweh one of the most expensive defensive players on the roster for next season, and this is without any guarantee of a long-term extension. In other words, the Ravens will pay a premium in 2025 for a player who might only be passing through. This limits the team's flexibility in the market and contract renewals, creating a domino effect that could influence other personnel decisions in the coming months. The problem intensifies as Baltimore faces several contract challenges simultaneously. With key pieces on both offense and defense entering the final years of their deals, keeping Oweh might mean losing other important players. It's a delicate balance requiring cold calculation. Is it worth paying a premium for an edge rusher for another year if it compromises other areas of the team? The franchise's choice to take on this high cost now might be aimed at buying time. A year to evaluate Oweh and decide if a long-term contract is justified, or if it's better to let him go and find cheaper replacements. This cautious approach, however, turns into a real risk when considering how a new dominant season could significantly raise a player's future financial demands. What initially looks like great news, the rise of a dominant pass rusher, quickly turns into a silent threat to the Ravens. If Odafe Oweh repeats or even exceeds his 2024 output, he could become one of the most coveted players on the 2026 free agent market. In that case, Baltimore risks being unable to compete with offers from other franchises. Jeff Zrebiec from The Athletic noted that, until recently, the Ravens were not treating Oweh as a top contract priority. This doesn't mean they don't value him, but rather reflects the weight of other contract issues the team faces. With so many deals in play, it's understandable Baltimore prefers to observe Oweh's development before committing to a long-term financial obligation. However, this strategy could prove costly. If Oweh maintains his level, the Ravens will have developed a talent they might not be able to keep, something that has happened before with many internally developed players. The team historically uses this cycle as part of a philosophy: develop, utilize, then allow the player to leave in exchange for compensatory draft picks. But when it comes to a dominant edge rusher, losing him can hurt more than usual. The front office needs a way, whether it's willing to risk losing Oweh to the market, or if they must act before his value rises even further. Letting the situation evolve without a clear decision could favor the player, but complicate team planning. And this dilemma becomes even more pressing when looking at other key pass rushers whose contracts are also expiring soon.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Oweh's situation is not isolated. Kyle Van Noy, the team sack leader last season with 12.5, is also entering the final year of his contract. At 35 years old, there are no guarantees he will stay beyond 2025 or maintain the same physical level. This puts the Ravens facing a possible complete rebuild at the edge rusher position, a vital sector for any competitive defense in today's NFL. Van Noy was essential in 2024, not only because of his stats, but for his experience and leadership in the locker room. His potential departure, combined with the possible loss of Oweh, would leave the unit without its two main players. It would be a double blow requiring immediate and effective solutions. The problem is that finding high-level pass rushers on the market is expensive and not always reliable. This uncertainty creates a worrying scenario for 2026, a defense that may lose its primary quarterback pressure force and still need to spend significant resources to rebuild the position. Long-term planning becomes mandatory, and decisions made in the coming months would define the fate of this unit for years to come. With two players likely to leave and a direct impact on the salary cap, the Ravens front office must act proactively. Ignoring the problem or delaying decisions could put the team in a vulnerable position. It is precisely in this context that the arrival of a promising rookie gains strategic importance, not only as a reinforcement but as a potential successor. The selection of Mike Green in the last draft was not an isolated move. Within the context of uncertainty at the edge rusher spot, the rookie's arrival seems more like a preventive measure than just a long-term reinforcement. Green brings potential, youth, and an affordable contract, ideal characteristics to replace expensive, veteran players on a transitioning defense. Baltimore is betting again on its ability to develop defensive talent, something that has been the franchise's hallmark for decades. If Green can quickly adapt to the NFL and show consistency, he can not only complement Oweh and Van Noy in 2025, but become the main pass rush name starting in 2026. This would make Oweh's possible departure less impactful, at least theoretically. However, relying on a rookie's immediate success is always risky. Green will have to prove his worth on the field before any transition plan can be realized. Still, his presence on the roster gives the Ravens a safety margin, something essential given so many contracts expiring soon and a tight financial future. Mike Green's development will be closely monitored, both for his individual promise and for the direct influence he might have on veterans' contract decisions. Baltimore could be quietly shaping its next generation of defensive leaders, and what happens with Oweh will be a thermometer for this plan. The 2025 season, therefore, will be decisive not only on the field, but as a crossroads for the future of pass rush in Baltimore. Odafe Oweh's situation perfectly illustrates the challenge the Ravens face in balancing talent and budget. Keeping such a promising player might mean tightening finances even further, while letting him go could weaken the defense. How do you think Baltimore should handle this dilemma? Will they risk betting on Oweh's future or opt for a financially safer solution? Share your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think about this case that could define the Ravens' direction in the coming years.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself. See you there, and until the next video, go Flock.